What is going on, folks? I'm Goat. Welcome back to Warframe. Another subscriber request. Recent one, actually. Hang on just un momento, por favor. Num. However you would like to pronounce that name. Specifically requested about... No, actually, I'm sorry. It was Eden Ash. Eden Ash requested a Sevagoth video, like a build checkup video on how to use Sevagoth. Now, Sevagoth is a very, very underrated frame, in my personal opinion. I find that Sevagoth is really a kind of an under the radar frame. No, not OP by any fucking stretch of the imagination, annoying as shit to fucking farm, but Sevagoth has some very unique functions that most other frames do not, in the sense of you actually farm Sevagoth to build 2 frames. Now, that only turns into 7 abilities in the grand scheme of things, and there is an exalted weapon out of this, but Sevagoth is an interesting son of a bitch. So Sevagoth, in the grand scheme of things, is basically just the lifestealer frame. Okay, that's just all Sevagoth is just the lifestealer frame. Excuse me. So Sevagoth throws his shadow around, ravaging enemies. So basically, it debuffs energy or enemies, makes them vulnerable for attack and damage. Throws a little bit of radiation damage, whatever, and just kind of flies around and chases people that have been implanted with this death seed from So. And then Gloom basically slows everybody the fuck down within the range of the ability, and when you kill them, you lifesteal from them as well. So you're basically planting seeds of death for a lifesteal, and then the shadow, if hitting them, does lifesteal from them. Plus, if you kill anybody affected by Gloom, you also lifesteal from them. Hence, there's like basically 3 levels of survivability with Sevagoth. Now, the shadow, I do want to point out, by the way, the polarization number that you're going to see on this is completely incorrect. It's not going to be near this much investment, and it's because when I first got Sevagoth, I had no fucking idea what I was doing with him, and so I polarized it completely incorrectly. So he has far too much Forma in him, even an Umbral Forma, just to fix a problem. So Sevagoth's shadow is basically the same fucking thing, except you yank enemies to you, you dash through them to lifesteal. You do the same fucking thing that, excuse me, you do the same thing that Reap does, right? Like Reap is damage vulnerability, you know, debuff. Okay, come over here. Got Death's Harvest, damage vulnerability, debuff. It's literally the same shit except for the shadow. And then, of course, you have his big-ass Exalted Claws. Now, personally, I'm just going to tell you right now, like, I'll show you this bullshit. Like, this is fine. The stats on this particular weapon are totally fine. And the reason that there is a blank volcanic edge over here is because, honestly, I don't use the shadow with Sevagoth. As neat as the gimmick is behind having Sevagoth, the shadow, plus an exalted weapon, yes, cool, that's, you know, that's basically triple dipping on mastery right there. But the shadow is, for one, very fucking squishy. For 2, is an absolute fucking energy hog. And then 3 has some of the funkiest movement mechanics that make the shadow just very weird, in my opinion. So I don't personally like running the shadow. So the base kit is, it works just fine if you can handle the shadow abilities. Now, I personally just subsumed right over the fucking shadow. Okay, and I changed the build a little bit because normally you want like a bunch of range. You do have to understand that the more range that you have, Gloom draws more energy for every enemy afflicted by Gloom. So you could very, very rapidly run out of energy. Nourish is a good double dip, even with the Dante Unbound slight nerf of Nourish as far as the energy regen. I think it's like 30 or 40%. That's going to be hitting Nourish because I'm shooting this before that. But the energy regen is still just fine in case of necessity of needing energy. I would definitely recommend Arcane Energize, just because he is an energy hog because of Gloom, and then Molt Augmented just to make him even more powerful as he goes. But this is pretty simple. Preparation is just a me thing. You put whatever the fuck you want to in that Axillus slot. And yeah, you see that right. It's 8 fucking Forma because I completely screwed up the build. This was... I literally started polarizing Sevagoth as soon as he came out, as soon as I got him farmed right after Call of Tempestari, and immediately regretted what the fuck I did. It was completely wrong. Weapons are kind of what they are. Like, weapons are really whatever the fuck you feel like using. Personally, I've got like the Incarnasoma Prime, and then I've got the Spore Lacer, and I have the Dual Ichor. The weapons are whatever the hell you want to use, because he's a life-stealing weapons platform. And it's so silly that if you just don't even consider the Shadow and use the 4th ability being going into the Shadow, use that for your wild card. Damage output, nourish, grouping ability, whatever the fuck you want to use, it's fine. It is so silly, some of the crap you can do, because like especially a grouping ability, even if you're not doing damage output like with Nourish or Roar or something like that, if you do a grouping ability like Ensnare, Larva, or Air Burst, you can group a bunch of enemies together because you've already got a shit ton of range built into the build anyway, like this, and lifesteal the fuck out of everything in front of you. Now, there is one problematic there's one problematic Acolyte that really just kind of fucks your day up, and that is that and nullifiers, but it's violence. If violence shows up, that's where your weapons are really going to be your buddy.
These foes deserve your respect. Honor them with quick deaths, and I with your victory.
If I could just hit buttons, that'd be a thing.
Has been cut off. They're trying to choke you out.
So we just hit Gloom, find some dum-dum babies, and you just get that charged up. So we just do this, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, and then poof, I mean, they just start fucking dying. I mean, it's a good time. You know, and you just basically just keep up with the 1 and the 2. Gloom just keeps on running, so it's a good time there. And anybody who's got that seed planted in him, the Shadow, just literally tries to go and chase him down. I mean, like, they just get all fucked up. They become very weak, and they're already very slow. So it's a good time there. Just plant more Seeds of Death, just fuck people up. I mean, like, it really kind of baffles the mind that Sevagoth sits so far under the radar. Because it's not that he's terrible. He's not OP as shit, but I mean, like, you can just, because everybody is moving at the speed of smell, and you're life stealing the shit out of them while doing everything that you're wanting to do. It's just like, okay, cool, we like it. Here, guys, I really like to get my melee combo up. Thank you very much.
Activating it will buy you more time.
Hey, bud. Here, just because you want to do that, I'll take my shit back. It's like Dual Ichor, just for example. I mean, just sitting here toxin procking, you know, vulnerable enemies is just a really good time anyway. You see, I'm not even activating Tennokai for Christ's sake. Like, there's just no need with this frame. It just fucks their day up. I can just run around and melee the shit out of everything if I want to. And the beauty is that acolytes are in fact affected by Gloom, so they get slowed down big time. So the only acolyte that really kind of boogers your day up is violence, because she'll just turn all your shit off. Like, this guy wants to life steal me? Fine, go ahead. Hey, you know what? Here, fuck you guys. So, I mean, basically, you just use the second ability, plant the seeds of death, and then throw the ghost, and then just basically fuck their day up. Really, I thought I jumped out of the path of that. You get the fuck out of here, sir. How you doing, bud? It's like, here comes an acolyte. I will just melee this dickhead. I don't even give a shit. Bye. I mean, like, how do you argue with that? And again, it's not that, you know, Sevagoth is OP as shit. It's really not. It's just the fact that his kit, aside from that damnable shadow and the funky movement mechanics behind the shadow, the kit actually synergizes pretty well. It's not perfect. I'm not even going to say that it is, but it's a good time. Look, he's a good, comfortable little frame to run. It's just so many people subsume Gloom to fix, you know, kind of band-aid fix other frames with their survivability problems, and he just kind of gets forgotten. It's kind of a sad deal for some poor old Sevagoth here that he got such a good subsume ability that everybody's like, oh, well, I could just use that better somewhere else. Haha. Oh, here, somebody needs some stuff. Here, you want some of that? There you go. Yeah, so I mean, it's just, you know, a good time. Oh, look, an Amber Star. I'll take that. I never say no to Amber Stars. Amber Alert! I mean, like, this is all before the 5-minute mark.
The raid is off to a successful start. Extraction is available if you need it.
That, and I love his bullet jump mechanic. Now, yes, there will be, you know, some people that say Sevagoth is slow. That is not incorrect. Sevagoth is a very slow movement speed frame. And I'll show you the shards that I've got on him, by the way, because I didn't even cover that.
Fought well. Good deaths, all.
But, like, it's kind of hard to argue with successfully running, right? Like, I mean, we're under 6 minutes. We killed the acolyte with ease. I wouldn't know fucker was trying to melee me, and they were still so slowed down by Gloom that they just, you know, Angst just could not keep up with the attack. The only one you got to worry about is violence. At that point, something like a glaive or shooting them is a much better option. A whole lot of dodging and weaving, and like I literally just stood there face to face with Angst and was just like, yeah, get fucked. So the build is, or the Archon shards are as follows. Okay, hey, guess what? Health, energy max, energy max, energy max, and energy effectiveness on orbs. Now, this is something that is very handy on top of having Arcane energized. And the health is just to give a comfy little buffer just in case an acolyte actually does start to fuck you up a little bit, or if an Eximus sneaks in and hits you with a really hard proc or something like that. But personally, this is my build. And like I said, the nourish part of this is solely based on just what I find comfortable, but it's a complete wild card because, again, like, there's nothing wrong with the shadow per se. I just really dislike the movement mechanics behind the shadow because it's, to me, like a lot of people complain about the clunkiness of Lavos. I find Sevagoth's shadow to be very clunky as far as it just moves around like he's drunk. You know, so like the embrace function, the first ability of the shadow is great. Yank enemies to you, slash the shit out of them with the claws. The claws have got great stats, so that's a good thing. But then consume and death harvest are literally just rinse and repeat from Sevagoth's first and second for the most part. And then the fourth ability for both is basically, here, I'm going to transfer into the shadow. Oh, here, I'm going to transfer into the, you know, into, excuse me, I'm going to transfer back into Sevagoth. Now, the beauty about this, and I know somebody's probably going to ask, is if you subsume over the shadow, what happens to the passive? And the answer is absolutely fucking nothing. You still go into the shadow and you still have the opportunity to basically attack enemies to revive yourself. It's either that or you use Last Gasp and a good amp. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, personally, for me, I just find that Sevagoth is not a bad frame. I think he's a good low to mid tier steel path frame. You know, but energy economy, adding a little bit of additional energy pickups and arcane energizers, there's definitely some setup that goes into Sevagoth, because if you don't, it will be a bit of a struggle and some people will hate him for it. If I remember correctly, I think the proper build actually costs like 4 or 5 forma, not 8. I literally had to polarize over a few things, so that's just goofy as shit. Pay no attention to that number. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously you see the results of this. I could run this for a fucking hour and I would still be getting the same results. Basically, lifesteal, beat the shit out of them. I mean, you know, can you die with it? Sure, of course you can. You can die with any fucking frame. Even the ones that are damage invulnerable. You can die if you goof. And that's the whole point. That's the fun, right? Just kind of dicking around with the builds and goofing and having a good time. So, yeah. So, Eden Ash, I hope this helps you out. And anybody else who is curious about actually running, you know, Sevagoth in a little bit more of a survivable weapons platform, life-stealing setup, you know, don't sleep on Sevagoth. He's not some high-tier level capper, in my personal opinion. I mean, maybe people do run him at that level. It's possible. But in the grand scheme of things, what he does and how he functions is truthfully just my opinion. It's just, he's fun. He's a fun frame to play. So on that note, folks, I want to thank you very much for watching. As always, we'll catch you in the next one, all right?